And to start flicking through the pages of your book and hear about how far down the road of where we are with neurotechnology, it absolutely blows my mind. And I thought maybe as a way of, planting a bit of a foundation for this conversation, it might be good just to give us a bit of an overview of what it is that you're actually doing and where it is that we're actually at in terms of the progression of this neurotechnology, because it seems as though it's like a weekly update. The speed's gone pretty quick.
Yeah, it's going really fast. So, to the extent that most people have heard of neurotechnology, it's more, having heard about what's happening with Elon Musk and his, implanted patient. And so that's what most people envision. They envision, cutting a hole in your skull and putting electrodes deep into your brain, and that the people who are using neurotechnology have lost their capacity to walk or talk or something like that, and that this might give them the hope of being able to overcome that. And that's also neurotechnology, but that's not the kind of neurotechnology that I really focus on in the book, even though I do cover some of those aspects about what's coming. What I really focus is on neurotechnology for the rest of us. So you're an avid runner. It sounds like you're quite used to having sensors embedded in different products that you're wearing. And that's where neurotechnology is going, which is embedding sensors, which are brain sensors, into earbuds, headphones, watches, and other devices that are multifunctional devices. And so joining that kind of wearable industry, where instead of picking up what is your heart rate, it's picking up the electrical activity in your body. And there are different ways to pick up brain signals, but the predominant one that's really on the market right now picks up brain signals. So what does that mean? It means, as you think, as you relax, as your mind wanders, as you're tired, neurons are firing in your brain that give off tiny electrical discharge. And when you have a dominant mental state, hundreds of thousands of neurons are firing concurrently. And the sum of those different electrical discharges show up in what are called brain waves. So particular patterns that can be detected by these sensors. And then thanks to the crazy rapid advances in AI, what could potentially in the past have been undecipherable signals, now, like any other massive data set, AI is able to start to decode what a lot of those signals are. And so what's happening now is there are a lot of products that are already on the market, and what's coming in the next year or so are all of the major tech companies like Meta and Apple integrating those sensors into the devices that we've come to know and love, but suddenly are going to have, brain sensors that can detect a lot more than they used to be able to detect. So already in workplaces around the world, there are companies. There's actually an Australian-based company called SmartCap that's been selling a technology for more than a decade to companies that has what they call their life band embedded in it. And the life band has EEG sensors, electroencephalography sensors. And they sell it to mining companies and trucking companies and aviation companies, which is for their employees to wear the life band inside their hard hat or their baseball cap or something like that, which picks up, in this instance, just fatigue levels. So, you can imagine if you have somebody who's in a mining situation, you want to know if, they're being exposed down below in ways that put them at risk. Or if you have a commercial driver, you want to know if they're falling asleep at the wheel. And what this allows is a score from 1 to 5. The algorithm reads the brainwave activity and can then report back, like, this is where the person is on a sleepiness scale. Other companies have been using products that are these like headsets that track whether an employee is paying attention or their mind is wandering, or if they are bored or engaged at work. In fact, I was presenting on your brain at work. So the ways in which lots of companies have started to integrate neurotechnology into the workplace as a form of basically icky surveillance, I think, of workers, right? I mean, there's already so much surveillance of workers. This is next level. At the World Economic Forum in Davos. And one of the CEOs of a company came up to me afterwards to talk about how their company would be a great use case for the examples that I'm giving, because they'd already used it on thousands of their employees across Asia to track everything from, their boredom, their engagement, their distraction, the extent to which they're paying attention at work. And then we're making decisions about how to design the workplace or whether people could work from home or work in the office based on what their brain data reveals. So that's already happening. And then, there's been reports for years about how factory workers in China or train conductors in China are required to wear helmets that have EEG sensors that track their brain activity at work. The second chapter of my book is called Your Brain at Work. And I do a really deep dive into a lot of what's already happening in workplaces and how that could evolve over time. And it's interesting because I think that chapter has struck more of a nerve, with people than, any other chapter in the book, because I think it's so relatable for all of us to imagine suddenly, like, what does it look like to have our employers have access to our brain activity?
Yeah, I don't even really like my employers seeing Google search history
Yeah,
because
I don't either, right? I mean, like the amount of surveillance that's happening, I hate that like Microsoft Office has a panel that shows like how much time did you spend on email and how much time did you spend on Microsoft Word and each of the different documents that you have up. That already feels incredibly intrusive to me of how I'm spending my time. If you can
yeah,
go a level deeper and say, and like, what was the extent to which my brain was engaged in different activities or mind wandering or, starting to get metrics. Or like, what about cognitive decline over time and being able to track your brain activity, sequentially over time? What are employers likely to do with that kind of information? Or if I'm depressed or feeling emotionally distraught, like, is any of that information I'd want my employer to have access to? No, right?